So here's a question I get a lot, and I understand the question, and that's why I want to answer it in this framework. So the question is, why didn't you just walk out when you were in Florida, when you were in Clearwater? Why didn't you just leave? There were no fences, there was no barbed wire, there were no guards, and that's all valid. That's true. But there was something else keeping me there. Well, a lot of things actually, but the one I want to talk about today is the sunk cost fallacy. It's one of the most powerful control tactics there is, which is making leaving seem more costly to you than staying. It's not about the lock guards or the doors, it's about what's inside your own head. By the time I'd given all those years to Scientology, I'd given up so much. I gave up my life before, all the work that I'd done to get a degree so that I could move forward in a chosen career. I gave up all my friendships, my family, any relationships I could have had, the ability to have children. I gave all that up for nothing? That's too hard to deal with a lot of times. And yeah, I walked out a few times, but there's one particular time that I think about the most. I'd been at Flag for a couple years, and it was just about approaching the dreaded Thursday at 2. Anyone in Scientology will know that Thursday at 2 is this arbitrary time that your week ends and you have to count up all your statistics and make sure they're better than the week prior or else. So it's a time of quite a lot of anxiety. And this particular week wasn't very good for me. In fact, it was brutal in terms of statistics. And an RTC rep, RTC is Religious Technology Center. They're the ones overseeing the technology and the purity of the technology of Scientology. Anyway, this guy walks into my office and just starts screaming at me about how suppressive I am and blah, blah, blah. The stuff I'd heard a million times, but this time it just hit really hard because he was just nasty about it. And this went on for a good 20 minutes, and I just sat there just like that. like you get used to just sitting there with no expression. So when he was done and he walked out, he had put me in a lower condition, right? I was in treason or something, and I had to work my way back up. Again, nothing new. But I just instinctively walked out the back door. And I walked and I walked, and it was hot. It was a hot, sticky Florida day. I had my uniform on, and that's it. I didn't have a purse. Of course, I didn't have anything in the purse anyway. But I'm just walking and walking. And, you know, I could have gone to a local police office. I could have even just gone to the 7-Eleven down the street and asked to use their phone to call my parents. You bet they would have picked me up. But my head wasn't there. And this is why. I just kept thinking, I can't do this. I can't. I gave my whole life to this. I can't have been wrong about this. This can't have been a mistake. I mean, I thought it was just because I was somebody who doesn't give up on things, right? But that's not really true. I've given up on lots of things. The thing was, if I left, I would have lost all of it, including my eternal spiritual freedom, because that's what I believed at the time. So I turn around and I walk right back inside because I knew that the price I would have had to pay felt like too high a price until 2 years later when it didn't. And I really left for good. I guess the easiest way to put this is I wasn't staying because I was weak. I wasn't staying because I couldn't see how bad it was. I saw how bad it was at this point. I was staying because I felt like leaving would cost me way more than I felt that I could pay. I thought it would cost me everything. And I was so afraid and terrified of that. So, yeah, that's what happened. And that's not loyalty, by the way. That's a trap. So, if you've ever stayed in a job, a relationship, or a situation that you didn't feel was right, it had turned out way worse than you thought it was going to be at the beginning, but you stayed anyway because the cost of leaving was just too great for you to face. That's what this tactic is. And yeah, the cost of leaving is real, but it is not even close to as high as the cost of staying. So that's cult tactic number 2. Follow me for more culty goodness.